whole thing started with us working with tribals, and we were trying to do community-based tourism. Then we moved on to honey. Then we realized that maybe we are not of much great avail to them because the tribal sense of wealth vis-a-vis money is very different, and we may not be necessarily be of great avail to them. I mean, it was an incident which helped us realize that. Then we started looking around at what else can be done. That is where we decided that we will look at rain-fed farming, and we looked at agriculture and handlooms as two major sectors, because after tribals, probably this was the evolution of a vocation in a certain sense. So we looked at in farming, we looked at rain-fed farming because 60% of farming is actually rain-fed. And then the next allied sector was handloom. And when we are looking at it, we realized that there's a huge crisis in the farming sector as such. And there were suicides being reported. There's a national data which says every half an hour a farmer commits a suicide. Then when we started looking at it more deeply, we realized that 80% of farmers who commit suicide are cotton growers. That's a very skewed number for 80% to be that. And when we looked a little more deeper, some fascinating information started coming out. One was that 50% of pesticides produced in this country is largely for only one crop, which is cotton, actually. And we dug a little more deeper, and we realized that there are only totally 4 varieties of cotton, which is, again, very unique in the sense, generally in the plant kingdom, you have too many species. For example, indigo has around 150 species, actually. Whereas in cotton, there is only 4 species, of which, again, like if you look at it, there are 2 which evolved in Egypt and 2 which evolved in India. The 2 in Egypt and 2 in India are so distinct that the one in Egypt has 4 set of chromosomes and the one in India has 2 set of chromosomes, and they cannot interbreed. So these are completely separate, actually. Then we started looking a little more, and Indian cotton is always known as Indian short staple cotton, meaning that the average length of each fiber is shorter being anywhere between 18 to 24 mm. That is called as a short staple length. And Indian cotton is always grown in rain-fed areas. And whereas the Egyptian cotton was grown in river Nile flood basin, actually, from where it went to the US and became American or upland cotton, actually. And it is always long staple generally being above 28 mm. The reason to emphasize on staple length is it decides many other things. So like if your staple length is long, you convert a cotton when you de-seed it, that is when you remove the seed, it becomes lint, and from lint you get yarn. So the lint is basically goes through 3 processes, which is pick, drag, and twist. And when you do the twisting, the twist per inch will be much higher, and therefore when you weave it into a cloth, it will not mesh very finely. This is when the staple length is low, which is typical of Desi or Indian cotton, actually, and therefore your cloth will be able to allow air inside. And also the Indian cotton had a high Micre value, which is a parameter which defines both fiber strength as well as its ability to absorb, actually. So it can absorb a lot of water. At the same time, it is also like what you call it, lead to a coarser weave. And therefore, it is more suitable for India. And that is why our forefathers chose to raise these specific varieties of cotton. Whereas in the US or the Egyptian cotton, the staple length is longer. Therefore, the twist per inch will be much lesser. And therefore, it measures very well as a cloth, and it will be able to block air, which is very suitable for a temperate environment where the air has a lot of chill factor. But over a period of time, we could see that in 1947, specifically, more than 95% of India was growing Desi cotton and less than 5% was American cotton. Today, Indian cotton is less than 1% and American cotton is more than 99%. Why did this change happen? Also, there was a fundamental flaw in our opinion that you are bringing a floodplain cotton and growing it in rain-fed areas. If you bring a floodplain cotton to rain-fed areas, we know what it can result in, actually. And today, the whole textile industry is talking about sustainable fiber, and they have almost branded that cotton is not a sustainable fiber. They are looking at various other substitutes like tencel and modal, which are made from birch and other trees. And therefore, many of our Indian textile companies are growing forests in Canada or in Thailand in order to grow these trees so that they can be brought into as fibers and then made into sustainable fibers. But the depth of knowledge inside Indian cotton or cotton as such is so high. There are more than 1,000 parameters which define cotton that it is very difficult to replicate or substitute with any other crop as such, actually. But the story is much more deeper. If you look at Indian cotton and American cotton. First and fundamentally, the Indian cotton is a deep root system. That is, it has a taproot system which goes 6 feet below the ground, and it often goes far deeper and is extremely drought tolerant. And because it is grown in what you call a rain-fed area, which is basically a dry area, you cannot apply synthetic fertilizers or pesticides. It will singe the crop and it will die. Typically, cotton is an annual, actually. It's a perennial, actually. It will bloom every year. But then we later did some hybridization and we made it into an annual. But even now, the Indian cotton can grow up to 3 years and continue to yield. You can do rattoning, which is basically cutting off the lower part of the plant and allowing it to grow again, actually. So this is with regard to the Indian cotton, whereas the American cotton is actually a fibrous root system because it grows in the floodplain. It does not need to develop deep roots, actually. Therefore, it is a much more what you call on top of the soil. And also it will grow to a lesser height and then it will bloom in profusion. But the industry, see, like the Indian cotton, which was made into yarn, our hand spinners, earlier it was only hand spinning. Our hand spinners were so good that they were able to make a count of around 1,000 to 1,500. That is a square inch of cloth, you will see a number of yarns passing through is 1,500. Such fine weaving they were able to do. And therefore, your Indian muslin, where the famous story that a sari can be rolled and sent through a ring, that is the fame which Indian cotton had, actually, because due to its hand spinners, in spite of the staple length being around 18 to 24 mm, actually. But when the machines came to India, the machines slowly started substituting Indian cotton with American cotton for the simple reason, for every twist there is an effort, and for every effort there is a time. And therefore, when you measure in efficiency and productivity, those modern parameters, you started looking at it, you are better off with a machine which works with American cotton rather than Indian cotton.